So tired of talking about this, but please stop following men into the wilderness. Again, look at this. Tubing accident. This just happened. They still can't find her. They still can't find her. I don't know who she is, but she's a top chef. I don't know, she's known. Naomi Pomeroy went tubing with her husband and a friend, and she's dead now. She's also a mother. So thank God that kid wasn't with them. Oh, and it's just one after another, y'all. Look at this. Luckily, this man, okay, I'm going to get into the story in a minute. I have so much to say about this. I also want to explain to you why you need to be more afraid of water. You're probably, whoever's watching this, unless you've literally taken a Swiftwater Rescue class, you are probably not afraid enough of water. I'm going to go over what you should consider with water. And anybody who's been following me for a while, I was literally just 2 weeks ago watched someone drown in Greece. And that's the third person I've seen die in front of me in water. So, oh my God. And it's always men. It's always men who are, like, it's not always men who are dying, but it's almost always men who are responsible for it. It's shocker. They underestimate the power of water. Anyway, before I get into her story, I literally, like, there's so many stories, I have time to talk about them all. So I'm just going to throw a few of them all in this one video. This dude dies after rescuing his, great. I love they always do this. Oh, what a hero. What a hero. Y'all remember I did that story. Andy mentioned this the other day, one of the people who I adore. And I did that story last year about the man who got his, oh my God, like took his kid out across a lake, a frozen lake, and the way they frame these stories, like, he died trying to save his kid's life, a hero. No, reckless man gets child unalive. Like the framing is always like hero. These men will put you in danger just so they can save you. They don't even know they're doing it sometimes. Or more commonly than not, they're just so, they don't even bother looking up what are the rules of river. What should I be aware of? What should I think about? How do I keep my children safe? My wife, this 41-year-old man, allegedly died from saving his son and stepdaughter. Okay, what were you doing in that river anyway? I don't mean to speak ill of the dead, but I am so tired of men in boats, too. Men driving boats, men in whitewater raft guides. Y'all know, I was like so upset when I started talking about this last year, when I remembered that so many men that I worked with would purposely get people tossed out of their boat because they're bored, or purposely flip their boat because they're bored, not even thinking about the emotional impact that has. How much that traumatizes people, because not everybody is just feels so comfortable around water, nor should they. A lot of times when they're just purposely flipping these boats, they're literally endangering people. The last thing I ever wanted was people in the river because someone died my first day rafting on the Rio Grande, not because of me, but we were the first on the scene of a drowning, and I had to watch a mother die in front of her daughter. And then we had to keep rafting. After getting her body up a cliff using a Z-pulley system. So I'm sorry, I'm a little heated when I talk about this, but I can't handle it. Stop trusting men. They don't know what they're doing. In this case, this dude took his stepdaughter and his son out in a canoe. They'd stopped on a sandbar. The two children had been wearing life jackets. Thank God he was smart enough to do that, though he didn't believe his brother was. He said this dude thought his brother he was a competent swimmer. Yeah, all men think they're competent swimmers. I'll show you what being in a strainer looks like, and the face that men make when they get stuck in strainers. And you probably don't even know what a strainer is, and I'm going to tell you in a minute. Swift water is seriously one of the most dangerous forces of nature, y'all. Do not ever underestimate it. He was outmatched by the river. Yeah. Never convinced me that men's obsession with conquering nature isn't also tied to this whole colonizer mindset, right? Also, two hikers just died. This has all happened within like the last few days. Dad thought it was a really great idea to go hiking in the desert in 100+ degree weather. A challenging trail in temperatures well over 100 degrees. I mean, so this was his adult daughter, but still, doesn't matter. It was, I mean, if he had taken a child out there, but still, literally, oh my God, what is this mother going through right now? They ran out of water, duh, we're lost. The trail goes between sections where hikers are between rock walls that radiate heat. So if you don't know much about rock, I say this as someone who's also a climber, rocks, they will make you a lot colder or a lot hotter depending on what's happening. Hiking between rock walls has the effect of being in an oven. But he's like, hey, cool, let's go do this hike, this difficult hike in 100-something degree heat. And then July 7th, y'all, this is all within a week. 50-year-old man found dead while hiking in the Grand Canyon National Park during heat. Why are you hiking in Grand Canyon National Park during a heat wave? The third hiker to have died there in less than a month because of heat. Let's get back to her story, because I hope that you will take the lesson from this, not only to not trust men, but also to understand a little bit more about Swiftwater. Okay, so let's just start off with, let's set the scene here, okay? Her and her husband and a friend of his. I would be willing to bet it's a dude. Don't know though. They had 2 inner tubes and a paddleboard, and they all tied it together. Okay, so for those of you who are not used to this kind of climate or this environment, this is, when I lived in Montana, this was a big form of recreation. You know, people in those climates, people don't tend to have pools, so they use the river instead, which is great. And then you go tubing, and people tie tubes together and do like a tube train. And this is where people get wasted all the time, right? Now, I've done this a ton of times. It's super fun. But I remember being humbled really quickly, because once you get in like class 1, like even if you get just a tiny ripple, you start to understand that water is really powerful. So this is super fun if there's no rapids, if it's calm water, if there's literally just a slight current. But you're really not supposed to tie more than 2 tubes together, because when you go around a bend, anytime you go around a curve or a bend in the river, you're going to get more swift water. So you got to be careful during them. You just really don't want to tie them together. And the main reason for that is strainers, trees, snags, rocks. I cannot stress how dangerous trees are. Literally, if you see a tree when you're in the river, assume that thing is going to take your life, because it very likely will if you get anywhere near it. And they interviewed people who are, you know, around the river that she drowned in. You know, it's like, it is a big party scene. It's like people having fun on the river. And this one person was like, yeah, my friends and I just tied up our floaties last night. There were logs in the water we couldn't really see, and we were just kind of laughing and making light of that. But this is actually very dangerous. It is. Just so you know, this woman is only one of 4 people who has drowned in the local rivers around there in July. Like, I can't tell you how common this is. And part of Oregon law requires everyone, regardless of age, to wear a life jacket if you have 2 or more tubes tied together. So they're already breaking the rule. They had 2 tubes and a paddleboard tied together, and they weren't wearing life jackets. Whose idea do you think that was? I don't know. Just pontificating. And children are always supposed to wear life jackets. And the way that this article was like freak drowning, it's not a freak drowning. This literally happens often. We're only hearing about it because she's famous. So what happens in rivers is that if you're not wearing a life jacket and anything at all, strainer, rock, branch, whatever, you will not resurface. You will drown, and your body will go to the bottom for like 5 days. And what the real thing right here was the paddleboard leak. I'm sorry, I'm like really upset by this. My heart is racing right now. Every time I hear about drownings, it just I like relive those drownings. But I want to talk about this because it's really important. So it was her paddleboard leash or a strap connecting the inner tube, or both, got caught in the submerged tree. That's the thing. If you see a branch or anything, assume there's a big ass tree under the water and that it's going to take your life. And this is why you should never, ever, 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 ever strap yourself to things. You're not even like, I remember when I was one of my first years rafting, this was in Washington State. A bunch of like super religious women showed up wearing skirts, long skirts. We were like, oh my God, that is so dangerous. You don't want anything that is going to get you caught in a tree. Originally they said that she was held by the paddleboard leash underwater. The sheriff's office has claimed that she may have been held down by both the leash and the strap connecting the two. Look at this. So she was sitting in a tube, and the leash attached to the paddleboard was around her leg. The other 2, her husband and this friend, were pushed downstream, and she got caught in the snag. This is more detailed than you'll find in most news outlets. Look at this. So they reached her by boat and they unsuccessfully tried to pull her out of the water to start CPR. So she's not even breathing at this point. So then a rescue swimmer dropped into the water. Now remember, this is very dangerous water. Fighting against the current, the rescue swimmer realized that she was tangled in the cord or rope that prevented her from moving. He pulled out a knife and cut the cord, expecting her to float on the surface down the river, where they could then easily pull her into the boat for CPR. But no, instead, she sank before the swimmer could grab a hold of her, and the rescuers lost sight of her. So they're talking about how they were aggressive and put themselves in danger to make this rescue and were unable to do it because the water. This person put themselves in so much danger trying to recover her body and bring her back to life. I mean, to get her breathing again. Oh my God, I can't even talk about this. I don't know enough about bodies to talk about this, but all I know is they can't find her body. It's been like 5 days. No, I'm sorry. It's been like 3 or 4 days. I don't know how many days. I'm sorry. I should probably stop talking because I'm upset. Okay, sorry. In the 4 days since she drowned, they have been unable to find her body despite using sonar, underwater cameras, and drones. The sheriff's office boat was searching the river downstream for the snag on Tuesday, but the river current debris made the operation difficult. Her body has likely sunk to the bottom of the river. He expects the body to resurface about 5 days after the death. Sheriff's office will have a boat on the river looking for her every day. Like basically they put the whole community on watch being like, hey, look out for the body when it finally resurfaces. Oh my God. Totally unnecessary trauma to all these people. There's also like poor visibility. They can only see like 3 to 5 feet due to the fast current. Like what were these people doing in this part of the river if the current is this fast? God. This sheriff's office warned people to not tie themselves to their paddle boards unless their leash has a quick release mechanism and warned against tying more than 2 inner tubes together. Never leash your ankles to the paddle boards on moving waters like rivers. Here's the thing, you might be thinking, well, on the river, surfers have a leash. Yeah, you know what usually is not in oceans? Giant trees everywhere. It's different. Swiftwater is different in rivers than it is in the ocean. It's dangerous everywhere. But the biggest threat in Swiftwater is debris, rocks, foot entrapment, which is when people try to stand up in rivers that are above their knees. You don't think that this is going to happen to you, but if you get in swift water, even above your knees, and try to walk, foot entrapment, and then you drown like this because your foot's stuck. Leashes, stop attaching them to you because they get tangled in rocks and trees. On a lake or other still water, it's an excellent safety tool. Used with a life jacket, which she also wasn't wearing. On moving water, though, the leash can be deadly. So I'm going to give you all a little lesson, teachable moment here. Here's things you need to think about if you're ever in swift water, especially on a river. All moving water is dangerous. Currents, they might seem mild, but it's the currents with the current alone is dangerous. It is more powerful than you can ever imagine usually. And anything, rocks, trees, anything like that, trash like junk in the river, any obstruction in the water could take your life. Snags, these are single trees or root balls in the river, and they're everywhere. Strainers, I'm going to talk about this because when I did my Swiftwater Rescue, they put us in a strainer so that we would understand what it felt like to almost drown. I will never forget that day. It was also in Missoula, Montana, I think in April or something, and the water was so cold. Like the water alone could have killed us. So by strainers, what it is, think of pasta. You have a strainer and it holds the pasta, but all the water goes through. You are the pasta. And I am telling you, it doesn't take a big old tree, it takes one log. One log could be a strainer. So this is what they do in Swiftwater Rescue. Our tree was much bigger than this and we could not see underneath it. Basically, they found a perfect strainer and they had us, they had all kinds of safety devices so that if we got stuck that we could be rescued. But basically we had to float into the strainer and see what's happening. You got your log here and the body does this and the water's pushing the body like this. And usually under here is a bunch of other limbs and stuff, so you cannot get out. You can't go, if you see yourself coming to a tree, you better try to go over it, because you better not go under it. You will probably die. Don't go anywhere near the tree to begin with. But basically, we were like this. We had to feel stuck like this. And there was one little hole that was an exit escape that we were allowed to finally go into. Oh my God. I have never felt so powerless in my life than being in this right here. And they made us be in this to get Swiftwater Rescue training. So this is this is what the trees usually look like underneath the water, and all you see is just this. You're like, oh, a log, whatever. This. But even if this doesn't exist, you could still die. So apparently during the Swiftwater Rescue training, they have something called Swiftwater Rescue Strainer Face, because this is the day that everyone who takes this course, I don't even know what it's like now. I took it 20 years ago, but this is the day that scares the crap out of everybody, and it's supposed to scare you. This is they even have a social media post called Strainer Face, of how terrified everyone is when they find themselves in a strainer, because that's honestly the first time in your life you really truly understand how powerful water is, and it scares the living crap out of you, and you never take water lightly again. Well, you know what? Some people do, because most guides have Swiftwater Rescue training. Not all of them, maybe, I don't even know. You should have this. But what baffles me, that men who take this will go out and guide boats and try to get people to fall out of their boat. I will never forget. I will never go with a male guide anywhere unless I know him personally. Anyway, I'm sorry. I saw that headline today, and I was so upset. So glad. If her tragedy helps save one life by convincing any of you to never go in a river without wearing a PFD, which is not a lake vest. Personal flotation device is very different than a lake vest. Swift water and flat water are not the same. The reason why that woman, that story that I've told y'all before, drowned, first because she was in swift water, she was in class 4 water with a lake vest. She didn't have a fighting chance. There's no way that woman was going to live if she fell out of that boat, ever. But if you're going to go in rivers, for any reason at all, please educate yourself about the rivers, the dangers around that part of the river, because they're all different. Sections of the river is different, the water level, so many things. The river literally changes every day. Every day when I was a raft guide, I had to learn the river again. You got to watch out for this rock, this rock, this rock on this day. And then literally 2 days later, it's a completely different river because of the water levels. So this rock is fine at this level, and it's terrifying at this level. So it changes every day. But whatever you do, please stop trusting men. Ask women who know about rivers. I'm not saying all of them. I'm not saying all of them, but we tend to worry more about the safety of others, because we have been burdened with keeping people safe our whole lives, including men safe from themselves, but especially ourselves and children. Why in the world would you assume that a man who is conditioned under patriarchy with all this entitlement, all this hubris, all of this overconfidence, and a lack of respect for life, and even respect for his own life, why would you follow him? Please stop. Unless you know that man, or unless you intuitively have a really good feeling about him, he seems very emotionally intelligent and is not toxically masculine at all. I'm telling you, it's the toxic masculine ones who are cocky, who are super young men too, usually. Don't trust them. Don't get in their boat. Go get in a woman's boat. This stuff can be safe. The reason why it's usually not safe is because of men. And it's usually cocky white men, because they are the most entitled bunch. Anyway, please be safe, y'all. I'm so sorry. This is really depressing, but I hope it helps someone. I can't do a comment song on this one, by the way. I just can't. I can't do it. I'm too upset to do a comment song. I'm sorry. But leave a comment. Share this with people. Comment, blah, 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 et voilà.